Min stood in the entrance hall of the Crimson Talon, watching creatures from 100 different worlds walk past him. Some had scales that glittered like metal. Others had too many eyes or arms that bent in ways that made his stomach turn. None of them looked at him. To them, he was nothing. His colony ship had exploded 3 months ago. A reactor failure, they said. Min survived because he was outside doing repairs when it happened. He watched his home burn in the darkness of space. His sister Jin died that day. Everyone he knew died that day. The hunting guild found him floating in an escape pod. They could have left him there. But Captain, the massive reptilian who commanded the Crimson Talon, saw something in the desperate human. Maybe curiosity, maybe pity. He brought Min aboard and told him he could work to earn his passage. Now Min waited in line to officially join the guild. The line moved slowly. When he finally reached the front desk, a four-armed creature with purple skin looked down at him. The creature's name was, and he was the champion hunter of the guild. A human. His voice sounded like grinding rocks. "You want to join the hunters?" "Yes," Min said. His voice was quiet but steady. Laughed. The sound echoed through the hall. Other creatures turned to look. Soon, dozens of aliens were staring at Min. Many of them started laughing too. "Look at this," called out. "The soft skin wants to hunt." He reached out with one of his massive hands and poked Min's chest. The force nearly knocked him over. "No claws, no armor, no venom. What will you hunt with, human? Your words." Min said nothing. He kept his eyes on his face. "He has no weapons at all," another hunter shouted. "This one had 6 legs and a tail covered in spikes." "Humans are weak," a third hunter added. "They break easily." Captain pushed through the crowd. He was even bigger than, with scales like dark stone and eyes that glowed yellow. "Enough," he said. His voice made the room go quiet. He looked at Min for a long moment. "You understand what we do here?" "You hunt dangerous creatures," Min said. "The ones that kill entire colonies. The ones that other people fear. And you think you can do this work?" "I can try." His mouth split into something that might have been a smile. It showed too many teeth. "Very well, but you start at the bottom. You clean weapons. You maintain equipment. You do whatever we tell you to do. If you survive long enough, maybe you can join a real hunt." He looked at. "Give him the old quarters in the lower deck." His eyes narrowed. "You're serious, Captain? Humans are." "I have made my decision," said. He walked away, his heavy footsteps shaking the floor. Grabbed Min by the shoulder. His grip was like iron. "Come with me, soft skin. Let me show you where you belong." The lower deck smelled like old metal and chemicals. Led Min through narrow corridors until they reached a tiny room. Inside was a thin bed, a small desk, and a locker. Water dripped from a pipe in the ceiling. "Welcome to paradise," said. He pushed Min inside. "Tomorrow you start work. Be in the armory at dawn. Don't be late." He turned to leave, then stopped. "I give you 1 week before you quit, maybe less." When was gone, Min sat on the bed. The mattress was hard and smelled strange. He looked around the small room and thought about Jin. She taught him how to survive in the wilderness back on Earth. Before the colonies, before the stars, humans lived by hunting. They weren't the biggest or fastest or strongest, but they survived. "I won't quit," Min whispered to the empty room. The next morning, Min arrived at the armory before dawn. Inside, weapons of every kind hung on the walls. Plasma rifles, energy blades, sonic cannons. A hunter named was already there, checking his equipment. Looked like a wolf that walked on 2 legs with silver fur and sharp teeth. "You're the human," said. It wasn't a question. "Yes." "Can you clean a weapon without breaking it?" "I can." Tossed him a strange gun. It had 3 barrels and parts that Min didn't recognize. "Clean this. Every part. I want it perfect by noon." Min caught the weapon and got to work. He studied each piece carefully. It took him an hour just to figure out how to take it apart. But once he understood the pattern, the rest came easier. By noon, The weapon was clean and reassembled. Picked it up and examined it closely. "Not bad," he said. There was surprise in his voice. "Maybe you're not completely useless." For weeks, Min cleaned weapons and maintained equipment. The other hunters mostly ignored him. Sometimes they gave him impossible tasks just to watch him struggle. Was the worst. He would knock things over and make Min clean them up. He would break equipment on purpose and blame the human. During this time, Min watched everything. He watched how each hunter moved. He studied their weapons and their techniques. He learned which creatures they feared and which ones they respected. At night, in his small room, he read every file he could access about the hunts. One evening, the guild gathered in the main hall. A hologram appeared in the center of the room. It showed a massive snake-like creature with black scales and glowing green eyes. The creature had dozens of smaller snakes writhing around its body. "Void serpents," Captain announced. "On Planet 9, the contract pays 1 million credits. These creatures destroyed 3 colonies and killed 2 hunting parties. Who wants this job?" Every hunter in the room raised their hand or tentacle or claw. Nodded. "We leave in 2 days. Everyone prepare." Min was cleaning tables in the corner of the hall, saw him and walked over. "You heard that, soft skin? Void serpents, the most dangerous hunt of the year." He grabbed Min and lifted him off the ground with one hand. "You're coming too. Someone needs to stay at base camp and cook our meals." The other hunters laughed, dropped Min and walked away, still laughing. Min stood up slowly. He looked at the hologram of the void serpent. In his mind, he heard Jin's voice from years ago, teaching him about snakes in the old earth forests. "Every creature has a weakness," she had said. "You just have to be patient enough to find it." He would find the weakness. He would survive this hunt. And maybe, just maybe, he would show these aliens that humans were more than they seemed. The Crimson Talon jumped to hyperspace 2 days later, carrying Min toward his first real test. 9 was a nightmare planet. The sky burned red like an infected wound. Rain fell in sheets, and when it touched the ship's hull, it hissed and steamed. The jungle below was thick and dark, filled with sounds that made Min's skin crawl. The Crimson Talon landed in a clearing. The hunters poured out, checking weapons and arguing about strategy, shouted orders while Captain watched from the ship's ramp. "Listen up," called. "We split into 3 teams. Team 1 goes north to the canyon. Team 2 searches the western caves. Team 3 covers the southern ridge." He pointed at Min. "The human stays here at base camp. Guard the supplies, try not to die of boredom." The hunters laughed and moved out. Soon, only Min remained in the clearing. The ship loomed behind him, and the jungle pressed in from all sides. The rain had stopped, but water still dripped from the strange purple trees. Min didn't mind being left behind. It gave him time to think and observe. He set up motion sensors around the camp. Then he examined the defensive equipment. The other hunters had left him with basic gear: a plasma pistol with half a charge, a knife, and a broken shield generator. "They expect me to fail," he said to himself. He looked at the equipment carefully. The shield generator wasn't completely broken, just damaged. He spent 2 hours taking it apart and fixing it with parts from a spare communicator. Night fell quickly on 9. The jungle became a wall of darkness. Strange lights blinked between the trees, bioluminescent creatures hunting in the shadows. Min sat by the camp's fire, which ran on chemical fuel instead of wood. The fire gave light but no warmth. He thought about the void serpents. According to the files he read, they were ambush predators. They lived underground during the day and hunted at night. They detected prey through heat and vibration. Their venom could melt through armor. A motion sensor beeped. Min stood up, his hand moving to the plasma pistol. The sensor showed movement 50 meters to the east. Something was in the jungle, circling the camp. He killed the fire and moved to the edge of the camp. His eyes adjusted slowly to the darkness. There, a shape moving between the trees. It was big, maybe 4 meters long. Green light pulsed along its body in patterns. A void serpent, a young one probably but still deadly. The creature moved closer. It seemed to be testing the camp, looking for weaknesses. Min stayed perfectly still. His mind raced. The plasma pistol wouldn't be enough. If he shot and missed, or if the serpent had armor like the files said, he would die. Think like a human. The creature entered the camp slowly. Its head was flat and wide, with dozens of small eyes that glowed green. Its body left a trail of acidic slime. The smell burned Min's nose. He remembered what Jin taught him about traps. You don't need to be stronger than your prey. You just need to be smarter. Min backed away carefully. He moved toward the equipment pile where fuel cells for the generators were stored. The serpent followed, its tongue flicking out to taste the air. It was hunting him now. Good. He grabbed a fuel cell and threw it toward the center of camp. The serpent's head snapped toward the movement. While it was distracted, Min ran to the other side and grabbed 2 more fuel cells. He placed them in a triangle pattern, then retreated to the ship's ramp. The serpent saw him and charged. It was fast, faster than he expected. Min aimed the plasma pistol at the first fuel cell and fired. The explosion lit up the night. The fuel cell detonated and the heat triggered the other 2 cells. The triple explosion caught the serpent in the center. The creature screamed, a sound like metal tearing. It thrashed in the flames, its acid blood spraying everywhere. But it wasn't dead. The serpent, burned and angry, turned toward Min. Half its body was charred, but it still moved. It opened its mouth, and Min saw rows of crystalline teeth. Venom dripped from its fangs. Min ran. He couldn't fight this creature directly. But he didn't need to, he just needed to outsmart it. He ran toward the motion sensors he had placed earlier. The serpent followed, faster even while injured. Min could hear its body sliding across the ground, could smell the burning flesh. When he reached the sensor line, he jumped over it. The serpent didn't notice the sensors in its rage. It crossed the line, and the sensors triggered the shield generator Min had repaired. The shield activated with a blue flash. It wasn't strong enough to trap the serpent completely, but it slowed the creature down. The serpent thrashed against the energy field, confused and angry. Min used those precious seconds. He climbed onto a supply container and aimed carefully at the serpent's head. He had studied the files. The creatures had sensory organs on the top of their heads, small clusters of nerve tissue that processed heat and vibration. He fired. The plasma bolt hit perfectly. The serpent's head exploded in a spray of green blood. The body continued to thrash for several seconds before finally going still. Min sat down on the container, breathing hard. His hands shook. His heart pounded so loud he could hear it. He had killed a void serpent. The hunting teams returned at dawn. They looked tired and frustrated. Led the group, his armor dented and scratched. "Nothing," he growled. "We found tracks but no serpents. It's like they knew we were." He stopped, his eyes fixed on the dead serpent in the middle of camp. Every hunter went silent. Captain walked forward. He examined the serpent's body carefully. Then he looked at Min, who stood by the ship's ramp. "You killed this?" asked. "Yes," Min said. "How?" "It attacked the camp. I used the equipment and the environment." Laughed, but it sounded forced. "A juvenile. He killed a baby and thinks he's a hunter now." The wolf-like hunter knelt by the serpent. He examined the wound on its head. "This is a precise kill." He hit the sensory cluster. He looked up at Min. "How did you know where to aim?" "I read the files about void serpents. I studied their anatomy." "And the burns?" Pointed at the charred sections of the serpent's body. "Fuel cell explosions. I used them to slow it down and injure it first." Captain's eyes narrowed. "You set a trap." "Yes." For a long moment no one spoke, then nodded slowly. "Interesting, very interesting." He turned to The human joins the next hunt as a tracker. His face darkened. Captain, this was luck, nothing more, a real hunt. Is exactly where we will test him, said. His voice carried no room for argument. The human has shown initiative. We will see if he can do it again. That evening, Min sat alone in his tent. Other hunters walked past, and some of them looked at him differently now. Not with respect, not yet, but with curiosity. Stopped by the tent. The sensory cluster, he said. Where exactly did you learn about that? The guild database. I've been reading every file I can access. And the trap. My sister taught me, back on Earth before the colonies. Was quiet for a moment. Not many would think to use the environment like that. Most hunters rely on strength or weapons. He paused. Perhaps there is more to humans than I thought. After left, Min lay on his thin bedroll. He looked at his hands. They had stopped shaking, but he could still feel the adrenaline in his blood. He had killed a void serpent. He had survived when they expected him to fail. But he knew this was just the beginning. The real test was coming. 3 days after killing the juvenile serpent, Min stood with the hunting party at the edge of a massive canyon. The walls dropped into darkness. Somewhere below, in the caves and tunnels, lived the adult void serpents. Pointed down into the canyon. The nests are at the bottom. We climb down, find the biggest serpent, kill it, and claim the bounty. Simple. He looked at Min. You're our tracker now, human, you lead. Min knew this was a test. If he failed, they would blame him. If he succeeded, would take credit. But he had no choice. The serpents hunt at night, Min said. We should wait until. I didn't ask for advice, interrupted. I gave you an order, climb. The hunting party descended into the canyon. There were 7 of them. A hunter named who had scales like a lizard, 2 others whose names Min didn't know, and him. They climbed down slowly, using ropes and equipment. The deeper they went, the darker it became. Strange sounds echoed from below, clicking noises, scraping sounds. The smell of decay grew stronger. When they reached the bottom, they found themselves in a forest of stone pillars. Acid pools glowed with a sickly green light. Bones littered the ground, some from animals, some from creatures Min didn't recognize. Spread out, ordered, find tracks. Min moved carefully between the pillars. He studied the ground. There were marks everywhere, places where serpents had slithered past, but the tracks were old, maybe hours old. Something felt wrong. Wait, Min called out, we should. An explosion of movement cut him off. A void serpent erupted from an acid pool, its jaws open wide. It grabbed one of the hunters, a creature with blue skin and tentacles, and dragged him under the liquid. The hunter's screams lasted only seconds. Ambush, shouted. More serpents emerged from the darkness. 5, 6, maybe more. They had been waiting, hidden in the pools and shadows. Defensive positions, roared. He fired his plasma cannon at the nearest serpent. The blast hit the creature's side but barely slowed it down. Chaos erupted. The hunters fired in all directions. Energy weapons lit up the canyon with flashes of blue and red. The serpents moved like water, fast and deadly. One of them coiled around a hunter and squeezed. Min heard bones crack. Fall back, Captain's voice came through their communicators. He was watching from the ship above. This is a nest. You walked into their territory. Retreat, shouted, but it was too late. The serpents had cut off their escape route. Min's mind raced. They couldn't fight this many serpents in the open. They needed cover, protection. He looked around frantically and saw a narrow passage between 2 stone pillars. This way, he shouted, follow me. I give the orders, bellowed, but a serpent attacked him, forcing him to defend himself. Heard Min, do what the human says, he called to the others. Move. Min ran toward the passage. It was barely wide enough for one person at a time. The serpents were too big to follow easily. As he ran, he grabbed items from his pack, flash grenades, smoke pellets, anything that could buy them time. He threw a flash grenade behind him. The explosion blinded the serpents for a moment. The hunters ran for the passage, firing as they moved. Was the last one. A serpent's tail whipped out and caught his leg. He fell hard. Min turned back and ran toward him. "Leave him," shouted. "Save yourself." Min ignored him. He reached and pulled him to his feet. The serpent lunged at them. Min pushed toward the passage and turned to face the creature. The serpent's mouth opened. Venom dripped from its fangs. Min pulled out his knife, a small, pathetic weapon against this monster. But he didn't aim for the body. He aimed for the sensory cluster on its head. He threw the knife as hard as he could. The blade struck true. The serpent jerked back, confused and hurt. It gave Min just enough time to run. He dove into the passage as the serpent's jaws snapped shut where he had been standing. Inside the passage, the hunters caught their breath. 2 were dead, the rest were injured. Armor was cracked, had acid burns on his arm. "We're trapped," said, his voice shaking. "They'll wait us out." "No," Min said. He was looking at the walls of the passage. There were marks here, old marks. "This isn't just a passage, it's a tunnel. It leads somewhere." "How do you know?" demanded. "The air is moving. Feel it. There's a breeze coming from deeper inside. That means another exit." Nodded slowly. "The human is right." They moved through the tunnel carefully. The serpents followed, but the narrow space forced them to come one at a time. Min led the group deeper, making marks on the walls so they wouldn't get lost. After what felt like hours, they found another exit. It opened onto a ledge halfway up the canyon wall. The serpents couldn't reach them here. But they weren't safe yet. "We need to climb," Min said. "Get to the top." "I'll go first," said. He grabbed the rope and started climbing. The others followed. Min went last. As he climbed, he looked down and saw the serpents gathering below. They clicked and hissed, angry that their prey had escaped. When he reached the top, the sun was setting. The hunting party collapsed on the ground, exhausted and defeated. Captain approached them. His face was grim. 2 dead, mission failed. "It was the human's fault," said immediately. "He led us into a trap." "I led you," Min said quietly. "You ordered us to go down there during daylight. I warned you to wait." "You dare," took a step toward Min. "Enough," his voice was like thunder. "You were in command, you made the decision. Do not blame others for your mistake." He looked at Min. "The human saved lives today, would be dead without him. You all would be dead if not for his quick thinking." His face darkened with rage, but he said nothing. That night a shuttle arrived from another colony ship. It carried supplies and 1 passenger, a human woman named Jin. She was a medic, rescued from a destroyed colony just like Min. She found him sitting alone by the ship, staring at the stars. "You're Min?" she asked in their shared language. Hearing Korean again made his chest tighten. "Yes. I heard what you did today, killing a serpent by yourself, saving the hunters in the canyon." She sat down beside him. "They're talking about you, some with respect, some with anger." "Wants me gone." "Of course he does. You're making him look bad," she smiled. "Good, someone needs to." They talked for hours. Jin told him about her colony, about the attack that destroyed it. Min told her about Jin, about learning to survive. "We're not like them," Jin said, gesturing to the ship where the alien hunters slept. "We're slower, weaker. We don't have claws or armor or venom." "No," Min agreed, "but we have something else." "What?" "We're patient, we think, we adapt." He looked at her. "Humans didn't become the top predator on Earth by being the strongest. We did it by being smart, by working together, by never giving up." Jin nodded slowly. "Then maybe it's time these aliens learned what humans really are." In his quarters, stared at his weapons. The human had embarrassed him twice now, first by killing a serpent alone, then by leading the hunters to safety when his plan failed. This could not stand. He pulled out his communicator and sent a message too. The young hunter owed him a debt and knew exactly how to collect. The human would face a real challenge soon, and this time there would be no lucky escapes. The challenge came 3 days later. Min was in the armory, cleaning weapons with Jin, when entered with half the guild behind him. The massive stood in the doorway, blocking the light. Human said, "I challenge you to a trial by hunt." The armory went silent. Jin's hand found Min's arm gripping tight. "What are the terms?" Min asked. His voice was steady, but his heart raced. "Simple, we both hunt a void serpent queen. The first to kill one and return wins. The loser leaves the guild forever." Smile showed too many teeth. "Unless you're afraid." Min knew this was a trap, had been planning this, but if he refused, he would look weak. The other hunters would never respect him. "I accept," Min said. Captain stepped forward. "The trial will happen tomorrow at dawn. Both hunters will be dropped at opposite ends of the serpent territory. You may take only what you can carry. No communication devices. No backup." His yellow eyes fixed on, "and no interference from others. This is between you two alone." That night Min prepared his equipment. Jin helped him, but she was worried. "This is suicide," she said. "Serpent queens are massive. They're 3 times the size of the ones you've seen, and as a champion hunter, he's killed hundreds of creatures." "I know." "Then why accept? You could have refused, left the guild, found another ship." Min thought about his sister, about the colony that burned, about every human who died because they weren't strong enough, fast enough, deadly enough. "Because if I run now, I'll run forever," he said. "Humans aren't meant to run, we're meant to hunt." He checked his equipment one last time. His plasma pistol was fully charged. He had a dozen grenades, a survival knife, rope, medical supplies, and a basic scanner. Not much, but it would have to be enough. Jin handed him something small, a memory chip. "Your sister's recordings," she said. "I recovered them from the colony ship's database. I thought you might want them." Min took the chip carefully. "Thank you." "Come back alive," she said, "please." Dawn came cold and red. The entire guild gathered to watch the 2 hunters depart, stood on one side, covered in heavy armor and carrying weapons that looked like they could destroy tanks. Min stood on the other side, wearing simple combat gear. "Any last words, human?" asked. "Good luck," Min said. Laughed, "I won't need it." 2 shuttles took them to different parts of the serpent territory. Min was dropped near an abandoned mining station on the moon's dark side. The place was old and falling apart. Perfect serpent territory. He checked his scanner. There were heat signatures everywhere underground, lots of serpents, and somewhere in this maze of tunnels was a queen. Min didn't rush in. That's what would do, charge forward with all his strength and weapons. But Min had learned something from studying Earth's old hunters. His father, Wu, told him stories about tracking deer in the mountains. "Patience wins hunts," his father always said, "not speed." He spent the first hour just watching. He found a safe position and observed the tunnel entrances. He noted which ones had serpent tracks, which ones had fresh acid trails, which ones led deeper underground. Then he noticed something strange. On his scanner there was a heat signature much bigger than the others. It was deep down, barely moving. That had to be the queen. But there was a problem. Between him and that signature were dozens of smaller serpents. Getting through them would be nearly impossible. Unless he didn't have to fight them at all. Min remembered the flash grenades. The serpents hunted by heat and vibration. What if he gave them something else to chase? He rigged 3 grenades together with a timer and threw them as far as he could in the opposite direction from the queen's chamber. Then he waited. The grenades exploded with heat and sound. The serpents in the tunnels went crazy. Min watched on his scanner as they rushed toward the explosions, investigating the disturbance. He moved quickly while they were distracted. He ran through the tunnels, heading for the queen's chamber. The path was still dangerous. A few serpents remained, and he had to move carefully past them. It took him 3 hours to reach the deep chambers, 3 hours of crawling through tight spaces, 3 hours of holding his breath when serpents passed nearby, 3 hours of being patient. Finally, he found the Queen's chamber. It was massive. The ceiling was so high he couldn't see it. The walls were covered in some kind of organic material that pulsed with green light, and in the center of the chamber, coiled around a pile of eggs, was the Queen. She was enormous. Her body was as thick as a transport vehicle. Her head was the size of a small building. Scars covered her scales, marks from hunters who had tried and failed to kill her. When she breathed, the entire chamber seemed to breathe with her. Min understood immediately that he couldn't fight this creature with weapons. His pistol would be like a bee's sting to her. The grenades might hurt her, but they wouldn't kill her. He needed to think like a human. He spent the next 2 hours just watching the Queen. He didn't move. He barely breathed. He simply observed. This was the human advantage, the ability to wait, to be patient, to study prey for hours, days, even weeks before striking. He noticed patterns. Every 30 minutes, the Queen left her eggs to drink from an acid pool at the edge of the chamber. When she drank, she lowered her head, exposing the sensory cluster on top. That was his opening, but he only had one chance. Min positioned himself on a ledge above the acid pool. He tied his rope to a support beam. He armed his last 3 grenades and his pistol. Then he waited. Time passed slowly. His legs cramped, his arms shook from holding position, but he didn't move. This was what humans did. They endured. Finally, the Queen stirred. She uncoiled from her eggs and moved toward the pool. Her massive body scraped against the chamber walls. She lowered her head to drink. Min dropped from the ledge, swinging on the rope. He threw all 3 grenades at once. They exploded against the Queen's sensory cluster. The Queen shrieked. The sound was deafening. She reared back, blind and confused. Min swung past her, firing his pistol directly at the damaged cluster. The plasma bolts burned through the exposed nerve tissue. But he had miscalculated the rope length. Instead of swinging to safety, he slammed into the chamber wall, hard. The impact knocked the air from his lungs. He fell toward the acid pool below. The Queen, dying but still dangerous, lunged at him. Her jaws opened wide. Min grabbed a broken piece of rock from the wall and threw it into her mouth. The Queen's jaws snapped shut reflexively. The rock lodged in her throat. He hit the ground hard, just inches from the acid pool. Pain exploded through his body. His left arm was broken, maybe some ribs too. The Queen thrashed above him, trying to dislodge the rock from her throat. Her movements grew weaker. The damage to her sensory cluster was too severe. Finally, with one last shudder, she collapsed. The sound of her body hitting the ground shook the entire chamber. Min lay on the cold stone, breathing hard. Everything hurt, but he was alive. High above, in a different part of the serpent territory, killed his 3rd adult serpent. He was winning. He had the strength, the weapons, the experience. Finding a Queen would be easy. But then his communicator crackled. It was supposed to be disabled, but someone had secretly reactivated it. His voice came through. "The human, you need to see this." "What?" "He killed a Queen. The Guild's monitoring drones caught it. He actually killed a Queen." "Froze, that's impossible." "See for yourself. Captain is sending you the footage." The hologram appeared in front of. It showed Min's entire fight. The patience, the observation, the perfect timing, the sacrifice of his own body to make the final strike. For the first time in his life, felt something he had never felt before. Fear. Not of the serpents, not of death. Fear that he had underestimated what it meant to be human. Min woke up in the medical bay. His left arm was in a cast. His ribs were bandaged. Every breath hurt, but he was alive. Jin sat beside his bed. When she saw his eyes open, she smiled with relief. "You're an idiot," she said. "I won." You won, she shook her head. The entire guild watched the footage. You killed a queen with basic equipment and a broken body. They're calling it the hunt of the century. Min tried to sit up, but pain stopped him. Where's? Outside. He's been waiting for hours. Send him in. Jin looked uncertain but left. A moment later entered. The massive looked different somehow. Smaller, humbled. Human, he said, then he stopped and corrected himself. Min. It was the first time had used his name. I came to concede the trial, continued. You won fairly. I will leave the guild as agreed. No, Min said. His eyes widened. What? I don't want you to leave. I want you to teach me. Teach you, but I lost. You proved yourself better. I proved I can think differently, Min interrupted. But you have decades of experience. You know things I don't, techniques I haven't learned. We're different kinds of hunters, both valuable. Was silent for a long moment. Then slowly he bowed his head. I underestimated you. I underestimated all humans. I thought strength was everything. But you showed me that intelligence, patience, and adaptability matter just as much. He looked up. I would be honored to teach you, and perhaps you can teach me as well. Over the next weeks, things changed aboard the Crimson Talon. Min recovered from his injuries. During that time, more humans arrived, refugees from destroyed colonies. Jin helped them settle in, and to everyone's surprise, the alien hunters began treating them with respect. Captain called a meeting in the main hall. Every member of the guild attended. We have seen something remarkable, announced. A human with no natural weapons, no armor, no venom, killed a void serpent queen. He did this through patience, observation, and intelligence. He showed us that there are many ways to be a hunter. He gestured to Min, who stood at the front of the hall. His arm was still in a cast, but he stood straight. I offer you the position of guild master, said. You have earned it. The hall erupted in mixed reactions. Some hunters cheered, others looked shocked, a few seemed angry. Min raised his good hand, asking for silence. I'm honored, but I can't accept. His eyes narrowed. Why not? Because I have a different idea. Min looked around the hall at all the faces, alien and human alike. I want to create a training program, a place where humans can learn to hunt, not by copying what you do, but by developing our own methods. And I want to share those methods with all of you. You want to teach us? Asked. He sounded skeptical. Why not? Humans have been hunters for millions of years on Earth. We developed techniques that work despite our physical limitations. Persistence hunting, tracking, trap setting, strategic planning. Min paused. Imagine combining human tactics with your natural advantages. We could become the greatest hunting guild in the galaxy. Stepped forward. I support this idea. I have already learned from Min. His methods saved my life during our last hunt together. He looked at the other hunters. We are stronger together than separate. Nodded. The human Min has proven himself many times over. I vote yes. One by one, the hunters agreed. Even those who had mocked Min months ago now saw the value in his proposal. Captain smiled, showing all his teeth. Then it is decided. The Human Hunting Academy will be established aboard this ship. Min and Jin will lead it. The training program began immediately. Min taught the humans everything he knew. Jin organized the curriculum and handled logistics. They taught endurance running. Humans could run for hours without stopping, longer than almost any other species. They taught pattern recognition and strategic thinking. They taught patience and observation. The alien hunters watched with fascination. Some of them asked to join the training sessions. Was the first. Show me this persistence hunting, he said to Min one day. They were on a training planet tracking a creature called a dust runner. It was fast, much faster than any human, but Min didn't try to chase it directly. We don't need to be faster, Min explained. We just need to outlast it. They followed the dust runner for hours. Every time it ran, they walked. Every time it stopped to rest, they kept moving. The creature was faster in bursts, but humans could maintain a steady pace forever. After 6 hours, the dust runner was exhausted. It could barely move. Min walked up to it calmly and placed a tracker tag on its back. Stared in disbelief. You didn't even fight it." "I didn't need to. I just needed to be more patient." Word spread quickly through the galaxy. Other guilds heard about the human hunters. Some laughed, others were curious, a few were worried. A young alien hunter named arrived at the Crimson Talon asking to study under Min. She was small for her species, often overlooked and underestimated. "I want to learn the human way," she said. "I'm not strong like the others, but maybe I can be smart like you." Min smiled. "Being underestimated is an advantage. It means your enemies won't see you coming." He began training her personally. Jin helped too. They taught her everything, not just hunting techniques, but the human mindset, how to turn weakness into strength, how to adapt, how to survive. Months passed. The Human Hunting Academy grew. More humans joined. More alien hunters requested training. The Crimson Talon became famous not just for its successful hunts, but for its innovative methods. One day, a message arrived from the Galactic Council. It was marked urgent. Captain gathered the senior hunters. Min and Jin were now included in these meetings. "We have received a contract," said gravely. "The most dangerous one in guild history, the Phantom Reapers of the Void." The room went silent. Every hunter knew about the Phantom Reapers. They were legendary creatures that lived in the dark spaces between stars. They had destroyed entire battle fleets. No hunter had ever killed one and survived. "The bounty is 100 million credits," continued. "But that's not why I'm considering it. The Reapers are moving toward populated systems. If someone doesn't stop them, millions will die." "It's suicide," one hunter said. "Probably," agreed. He looked at Min. "What do you think?" Min stood up. He walked to the hologram displaying the Phantom Reapers. They were massive, tentacled creatures that seemed to be made of living shadow. "I think," Min said slowly, "that no one has ever killed them because everyone hunts them the same way, with force, with weapons, with aggression." He turned to face the group. "But what if we tried something different?" "What do you have in mind?" asked. "I need to study them first, learn their patterns, understand what they are." Min looked around the room. "But if we take this contract, I want a mixed team, humans and aliens working together, combining our strengths." "You want to hunt the most dangerous creatures in the galaxy with a mixed team of species," said. "That's insane." "Maybe," Min agreed. "But humans have been doing insane things since we first walked out of the caves and decided to hunt mammoths with pointed sticks. We're not the strongest, we're not the fastest, but we're the species that looks at the most dangerous predator in the world and asks, how can we kill it?" Captain's laugh rumbled through the chamber. "Well said. Very well, we accept the contract." A week later, the team was assembled. Min, Jin, and 3 other hunters, a perfect mix of species and skills. They stood in the launch bay, checking their equipment. "Everyone knows the plan?" Min asked. They all nodded. "Remember, we're not going in with force. We're going in with intelligence. We observe, we learn, we adapt. That's the human way." "That's the hunter way," corrected. "You taught us that." Min smiled. He looked at his team. Once they would have laughed at him. Once they would have left him to die. Now they followed him into the most dangerous hunt in history. Jin walked up beside him. "Are you ready?" she asked quietly in Korean. "No," he admitted. "But humans are never ready. We just do it anyway." The Crimson Talon powered up its engines. The ship turned toward the dark space where the Phantom Reapers waited. Every hunter aboard knew this might be a one-way trip. But they also knew something else. They weren't just a guild anymore. They were a family, humans and aliens working together, learning from each other. And if the Phantom Reapers thought they were just prey to be hunted, they were about to learn a hard lesson. They were about to face creatures who learned to hunt in the darkness of Earth's ancient forests, creatures who survived ice ages and predators and extinction events, creatures who climbed to the top of the food chain not through strength, but through intelligence, endurance, and the refusal to ever give up. They were about to face humans. And humans, once they decided to hunt something, never stopped until the job was done. The ship jumped to hyperspace, carrying its crew toward destiny. In the cargo bay, among the weapons and equipment, was a small holographic projector. When activated, it showed an image of Jin, Min's sister, smiling. "Every creature has a weakness," her recorded voice said. "You just have to be patient enough to find it." Min stood at the viewport, watching the stars blur past. Behind him approached. "Are you afraid?" he asked. Min thought about the question. He thought about his destroyed colony, about the hunters who laughed at him, about the Void Serpent Queen, about everything that brought him to this moment. "Yes," he said honestly, "I'm terrified." "Good," said. "Fear keeps you alive, it makes you careful, makes you think." He paused. "You taught me that." They stood together in silence, watching the infinite darkness outside. Somewhere in that darkness, the Phantom Reapers waited. But so did the hunters. And this time, the prey would become the predator.